What's good, fam? So I wanted to follow up on something from my last video, talking about the power that we have inside of our suffering. It's a weird thing, right? I was having a conversation with somebody not too long ago, and one of the things that they had talked about was the fact that it would seem like it's necessary to suffer in order to be successful, right? We know a lot of stories about a lot of people who have done a lot of great things in the world, and it seems like they all have some trauma or drama or something that they've experienced along the path, right? And I think a trap that people often fall into is this idea that, you have to be on the edge at some point if your life is going to be worth anything. Or you have to go through some crazy drama or trauma in order to, again, attain success. But that's not completely true, right? You don't have to suffer in order to be successful, right? It's not a prerequisite. It's not a requirement. But the irony that I find in that is the fact that if you are going to be great, right? If you are going to make something in your life, if the Lord, if God, if Spirit is going to use you, you're going to suffer, right? And I don't mean that your life is going to be a tragedy, right? What I mean is that you will go through something. What I mean is that you will have problems that you have to overcome. When I say that you're going to suffer, I mean that there might be something in your world, there might be something in your life that occurs that you within yourself don't have the capacity to handle. The reason for this is because when you're called, when you're chosen to serve people, when you are called to do something beyond the ordinary in the world, it's usually going to involve being with people. It's going to involve serving others in some capacity. And there's no greater trainer of empathy than suffering. Now, I want to distinguish something while it's on my mind, because I'm a firm believer that suffering is optional, right? So how can I stand in that tension of, suffering is going to be required of you if you're going to do something great, but at the same time, it's optional, right? If it's optional, it can't be required. Here's what I mean when I say that suffering is optional. In the midst of your trouble, in the midst of your trial, in the midst of your circumstance, you get to decide how you respond to it. We are not victims of life. We are not just out here with life happening to us. No, we are conscious creators. We are active participants with the world, with Source, with God, and we have a choice in how we move. We have a choice in how we think, and this is the big key, right? Because what you tell yourself about your situation, what you tell yourself about what it is that you're experiencing is going to matter more than the experience itself. And you have to recognize this, right? Just look back over your own life. Remember the times when things were hard. Remember the times when you were unsure about the future. If you panicked, that panic created the choices in your mind, right? The panic colored your perception of the world. But if you were calm, you probably saw a completely different world. This is how, or this is why you can have two people in the same situation, but their response to it be completely different. It's because those individuals are experiencing what's occurring completely differently. It can be the same event, it could be the same circumstance, but because your perception of that circumstance is tilted toward, I'll say tilted toward positive, right? Even if it's not completely good, it's still positive, right? Or at least neutral. You don't have to necessarily say, oh, this is for the best, right? This is the best thing that ever happened to me. You don't have to do that, because when things are hard, trust me, it is difficult to say that. But no matter what you're going through, you can always acknowledge that there is something in this that will be good. Even if it's not good right now, right? Even if it's not for the best right now, you always have the ability to acknowledge that there is something in there that will produce goodness in the future, even if it's not at this very second. And that right there is the hope that a lot of people don't have. That right there is the focus that a lot of people don't have. And when you do, again, it completely changes how the world occurs for you and how you respond to the inevitable situations and circumstances that are going to come to build you. Because that's what they're doing. God doesn't send us through struggle in order to break us. God doesn't send us through trial in order to get us to collapse. You know, there's a scripture in the Bible that says to let patience have her perfect work, right? We are being perfected through life. We are being molded and made with intention through our lives. And I don't know if you've ever seen a clay pot being made, but that has, like, the clay must go through the molding, right? It starts off just a muddy slab of nothingness. Then the potter presses on it and molds it and spins it, and it's just a constant pressing, right? Some of my favorite videos to watch on YouTube is blacksmithing videos. I love watching swords get made. And that metal has to be heated and it has to be beat into this shape that the blacksmith wants to have it in. And then after it's been heated and cooled and beat and shaped, it has to be sharpened. If I were a piece of metal, that would not be comfortable. When I was in the fire, I would want to get out the fire. When I was being beat on, I would want to tell the blacksmith, stop beating me, it hurts. When I was being sharpened, when I was being rubbed against that grate, right? I don't know what you call it, right? But, you know, when he's at the sharpening wheel, that doesn't tickle. And at the same time, the usefulness that one will have after the heating, after the shaping, after the beating, after the sharpening will be much more significant than had you been left alone. So, let this be an encouragement to you. Let this be a moment where you begin to reevaluate what it is you're experiencing, because you have a choice in that. You have a choice to reevaluate the situation and the circumstance, right? It doesn't have to be bad. It doesn't have to be good. You could just be neutral about it, right? Like the old Chinese story, the story about the man who, you know, his son had broke his leg, and his neighbors were like, "Oh, that's terrible," and then the guy was like, "We'll see," you know. And then the army came by recruiting, and then the son didn't have to go, and his neighbors were like, "Oh, what great fortune." And the guy was like, "We'll see," you know. And then things happened, like his horse ran away, but the horse, brought 13 other horses, and no matter what occurred, the old guy was just like, "Meh, we'll see," because from where we sit in space and time, we cannot see the entire picture. We don't. One of the things I've been telling people recently is that we are a part of a movement much greater than ourselves. So no matter what you're going through, man, just hold on and stick it out. Don't give up. Don't tap out. Don't quit. Because if things are tough for you right now, but if you found your way to this video and you've watched it this far, then I'd be pretty confident in assuming that you have greatness on your life. You have greatness in you. And unfortunately, the only way you're going to get great wine is that the grapes have to be pressed. You only get olive oil when the olives are pressed. we got to go through this, fam. Right? Like I said, suffering isn't a prerequisite for success. Right? You can throw in the towel. You can give up. But if you're going to be used in the hands of God, right? If you're going to touch and affect the lives of others, it's something that has to be done, right? On some level, we have to be able to understand what it is that others go through and what they're experiencing in a way that is authentic to us. And the only way we get that is when we go through something ourselves.